No need to adjust your eyes right now. You may want to gouge your eyes out, though, because, yes, you are looking at an image coming from GQ magazine. Now, GQ magazine has been known, I guess you can say, as the men's version of Vogue, where you had high profile celebrity men on the cover and they're wearing something that is, fashion forward for men, whether they're wearing a suit, wearing some jeans, wearing a certain type of jacket, what have you. Well, not on this issue, which is an issue, by the way, in more ways than one. You see a person on there wearing what appears to be a bubble jacket dress. That's what it looks like, a bubble jacket dress. And that person wearing that bubble jacket dress is none other than Pharrell Williams. Probably one of the most famous music producers ever. He's done a lot of music, a lot of songs for artists back in the day, all the way up until now, even for some of your favorite artists today, or even if they're not around anymore. But he's on this GQ cover and he's wearing this bubble jacket dress, and on it, it says the new masculinity issue. Can somebody out there please tell me what is masculine about this? I mean, think about it. It's Pharrell wearing what appears to be a dress. He has gold colored hair that I'm sure he dyed it. The way that he's posing right here, he looks like a woman, almost more of a woman than the woman he's married to right now. But Pharrell has always had very questionable fashion choices over the years. But this one right here is very, very questionable. And they're calling it the new masculinity as if this is supposed to be a redefining of what masculinity is, but then have the nerve to say that masculinity is attacking everything else. Now, wouldn't that be funny if you had Vogue magazine had a woman on there wearing a complete suit, a zoot suit, or what have you, and they call it the new femininity issue? But I think the thing also is the fact that on this issue for this cover, they used a black man to advertise it, as usual. Now, I'm sure somewhere Billy Porter is somewhere twirling around in a dress, praising this, probably wondering why he couldn't be on the cover. So if that's the case, he's probably pissed. But back to this. It's no shock that they used a black man for this cover. They could use anyone else if they wanted to. I'd rather they not had did it at all. But they used a black man, yet again having to break down the masculinity of a black man. That's why I keep saying that toxic masculinity phrase, I truly believe was thrown just simply upon black men in the harshest way possible. Because let's be real here. Black men exude true masculinity like no other man on this planet. While others seem like it's forced, ours comes natural. And in order to propel or push this narrative, they have to use a black man in order to turn the tide because we make everything trendy. But this right here will never catch on. I'm calling it. I'm declaring it right now. It will not catch on. I refuse to believe that it will. And y'all can say toxic masculinity this and toxic masculinity that, or homophobic this and homophobic that. But it is what it is. There is a natural order of things here, and this is completely out of order. This is chaos. Now, I haven't even gotten into the article yet, but I'm about to. So I'm on GQ's website, and it says, introducing GQ's new masculinity issue starring Pharrell. GQ editor-in-chief Will Welch says masculinity is changing, and change is good. Why does it sound like this person is probably a palm-colored male? Of course, they would applaud something like this because, like I said before, nothing brings them great joy other than seeing a black man in a dress or a black boy. Remember the story I just recently did about the boy? They said he needs to do something with his hair or he can come to school wearing a dress and we'll refer to him as a girl. They found pleasure in even just saying that, and they will probably find even more pleasure in seeing it. It says, back in September of last year, when I found out that I would be the editor-in-chief of GQ, most people said stuff like amazing and congrats. But one particular perceptive friend reacted in a way that I'll never forget. Yikes, she said. Hell of a time to be in charge of a men's magazine. It was a hardcore thing to say, which is exactly what real friends are for. She was right, of course. It was and is a precarious moment. Our society has been wearing blinders that shielded a pervasive culture of sexual intimidation and violence and blatant gender inequality. But some exceedingly brave people, many of whom were the victims of that unequal, violent, and discriminatory culture itself, were in the process of showing everyone the plain truth. So the essential question that the team and I have been confronting during our first year in this new era of GQ is, how do you make a so-called men's magazine in the thick of what has been justifiably become the shut up and listen moment? Now, first off, he said the so-called men's magazine. Last time I checked, GQ was or is a men's magazine. You don't see people saying Vogue is a so-called women's magazine or W called a so-called women's magazine. But when it came to GQ, they said a so-called men's magazine. Before you know it, they're going to be saying, so Men's Fitness magazine is a so-called men's magazine, even though the thing says men's fitness. It's an awesome, exciting, long overdue challenge, and we see every day at GQ as an opportunity to answer that question. One way we've addressed it is by making a magazine that isn't really trying to be exclusively for or all about men at all, even though in essence that's what GQ is. In fact, for many years now, one of the key principles at GQ is that if we tell stories that excite our own smart, voracious, politically and socially engaged team, we will connect with a smart, engaged, diverse, and gender non-specific audience. In other words, when they say gender non-specific, they're talking about those people who want to be identified as non-binary, also known as, don't call me he, call me it, or call me them. This is which means GQ isn't targeting a conventional demographic at all. We're just doing our own specific GQ thing, our own specific GQ way, and we trust that all kinds of people will relate and engage. Well, this person will not relate, nor will he, engage. It says this even applies to how we approach the seemingly very gender topic of men's fashion. What we've been trying to do with our fashion storytelling this year is position it in a way that makes it exciting and relevant to anyone with an interest in menswear culture, rather than creating a guide that applies only to people who wear men's clothes. It's a subtle but important shift. Now I'm going to read that part again. What we've been trying to do with fashion, our fashion storytelling this year, is position it in a way that makes it exciting and relevant to anyone with an interest in menswear culture, rather than creating a guide that applies only to people who wear men's clothes. So basically what they're doing is, it sounds like they're opening up the floodgates, or they're opening up Pandora's box. What was exclusive for men, they're trying to make it open to everyone, men, women, or those who want to, identify as other. But look at who they're using to push it as far as a cover. A black man. They're basically blatantly, in some cases, subliminally saying that they know that we're trendy, but that's the only way we're going to get people to accept it. So they go after a certain type of Negro, and yes, I threw Pharrell in that category, to do this. I'm surprised they didn't get Terry Crews to do it. He says the other approach is our practice of thinking of GQ not as a singular voice, but as a community platform, a pulpit that can be widely and freely shared. Let me just tell you this. This is a guy that they put in charge of this. This wasn't a woman that they put in charge of this. This was another man that they allowed to do this. Both of these ways of thinking culminate with the issue you are now holding, the new masculinity issue, which we have been working on in various stages since January. The centerpiece of an issue is an extended package captained by the journalist Nora Kaplan-Bricker called Voices of the New Masculinity. In it, we hear directly from people who are actively engaging with the complex and shape-shifting inquiry around what masculinity means today. You know what's so crazy? They have all these questions about what masculinity is, but they never, ever, ever question femininity. Nor do they or will they ever call it toxic. This is a way for the gynocracy, whether it's being steered by the women, in most cases, sometimes nowadays by the men, to ram that car through this wall that is impenetrable. There's like a crash test dummy. They keep trying to break that wall, but every time they try, the car ends up looking like a crushed soda can. But they will find another car and another crash test dummy to use this against. And it never works. This is hell in a handbasket. You got to think of all the stuff that they've tried to do with this masculinity thing. They tried it with Gillette. That was an epic fail. They tried it with a host of other things that I can't really think of at the moment, and those were failures too. GQ, you're about to lose a lot of subscribers. A lot of subscribers. Now, I can't say that I've subscribed to GQ before, but I have read through GQ magazines. You won't have to worry about me picking this up again. I'll just see it and walk on by. Let's see. In it, we hear directly from people who are actively engaging in... Okay, I read that part. It says, you'll hear from an activist who is figuring out how to speak to closed-minded men about topics like sexual discrimination in the workplace. Oh, God, and look who they got there. Tarana Burke. Crunch bar face. Miss, my job is not to go after white men. It's to go after black men. They actually interviewed her. Miss Me Too. They already striking out already. From a gender non-binary actor who was simultaneously advocating for greater inclusivity in Hollywood and acknowledging from their own privilege, Asia Kate Dillon, basically somebody who's probably transgendered. From two different comedians who are both mining this moment for poignant, provocative laughs, Jabuki Young White and Hannah Gadsby. Can't say I've heard of any of them. From an anthropologist who was debunking the idea that testosterone determines male behavior. Well, that's like a guy saying, does estrogen determine female's behavior? Because it does. And there you go, a woman trying to define what a man is. See, this thing is, oh my God. And it says, and an NBA player who is publicly divulging his personal struggles with depression and anxiety in a league that has traditionally favored the invulnerable, Kevin Love, who is a white NBA player. And there are many others. Let me read that again. This is personal struggles with depression and anxiety in a league that has traditionally favored the invulnerable. To capture even more voices, we also conducted a survey in which we asked 1,005 Americans about their thoughts and feelings about the state of masculinity now. The responses suggest that a seismic change is indeed underway and that we will still have a lot of work to do. And I think you'll find this issue is the beginning of an open-ended conversation. We're not attempting to be comprehensive on the subject of masculinity or offering a strict how-to for being a better man. Instead, this issue is an exploration of the ways that traditional notions of masculinity are being challenged, shifted, and overturned. It is also intended as an exploration of how we can all become more generous, honest, open, and loving humans, especially if we rebuild masculinity on a foundation of traits in values like generosity, honesty, openness, and love. You know what that sounds like? Being a woman. That's what it sounds like to me. So to the women out there who are hearing this by the sound of my voice, buy this magazine for your man if you want to and watch him slowly turn into your girlfriend or your wife or whatever it is, the complete opposite of who you are with or married to. Or watch you become battered when he rolls up that issue after reading this crap and bops you in the head with it because you bought him that shit. Needless to say, one of the voices in the mix that are of our cover subject, Pharrell Williams, who was an icon of progressive thinking, music making, and dressing. Pharrell has a long history of shattering cultural norms, and he has also shown a profound ability to adjust as the world around him has changed. That dynamic combination of leadership and responsiveness is an aspirational and exactly why we wanted him on the cover. And he probably was the only one that agreed to it. And I'm willing to believe he wasn't the only person they asked, but he was the first person to say yes. Before I step aside and let all the many thoughtful voices in this issue speak, I want to unpack one word that keeps coming up in these pages as the antidote to toxicity: empathy. Empathy is our ability to feel what other people are feeling. It is the foundation of love and the golden rule. If Pharrell, Tarana Burke, Crunch Bar, Face, and Hannah Gadsby are right, it is also something that men urgently need to cultivate right now. Now look at that. They said what men urgently need to cultivate right now. They basically want us to completely shatter down what we've been doing as masculine and rebuild it up into this paradigm of whatever they create that probably has rainbows and unicorns and feathers just flowing out of our ass cracks. Mind you, like I said, this is GQ magazine right here, the so-called masculine magazine. Now that I can, after this, can say is so-called. I've thought about empathy a lot over the course of editing this issue, and it strikes me that before you can feel what others are feeling, you must first be in touch with how you feel. In other words, you have to have empathy for yourself, and then you can turn that hard-won superpower, hard-won superpower outward and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It might seem counterintuitive that the people we need to learn to love first and foremost are ourselves, but I believe it's true. Toxicity simply cannot thrive in the golden presence of genuine self-love. With that, I'll pass the mic. Time once again to listen. See, they have literally said that masculinity is so toxic that in order to relieve this toxicity, we're going to go find a black man who is willing to throw on a dress and put it on the cover of a very manly masculine magazine and title it The New Masculinity Issue. There is nothing, I repeat, absolutely nothing masculine about this at all. And I think one of the best ways to also push it back against this is if a collective of women push back against it too. Because I'm telling you, they are banking that many of you applaud this. For real. And as for Pharrell to accept this, it doesn't surprise me in the least bit. Because like I've said, he has had questionable fashion choices over the years. I remember it was a year he was at the Oscars when he got nominated for that song Happy. And him and his wife showed up practically wearing the same thing. They wore this tux set that was like some shorts and a tux jacket. And it was weird. It was weird to me. I said, for an event like that, really, Pharrell, that would have been probably appropriate if he was going to the Grammys. But yeah, they are really trying it. They are really pushing this down our throats the best way they know how, as hard as they possibly can. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not for this shit whatsoever. So you will not have to worry about me reading another GQ magazine again. Ever. I won't even have to pick it up. Like I said, I'm not even subscribed to the magazine. And if I was, I would be finding a way to cancel my subscription the minute I get off of this recording. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one.